First, I'm going to have to ask for your forgiveness and understanding. Can you hear me all right? Is this okay? I was going to take my mask off, but all right. Wow, how good it is to be here. To say that again, God is good all the time. I was bishop of the Diocese of East Carolina, which is in the state of North Carolina. I was there for 17 years, and my diocese covered everything from Interstate 95 out to Cape Hatteras and the Outer Banks and Nag's Head. A rural, urban, agricultural diocese, dotted with small towns and small congregations. And among those congregations were historically black congregations, which I loved to visit. And I would go to one of these congregations that had known so much about exile and pain and enslavement. And at every one of them, I would get to the door and somebody would come out and say, "Bishop, good morning. God is good all the time." Psalm 137 speaks of the ancient Israelites who their nation invaded and destroyed, carted off to slavery in Babylon. And in that exile, the psalmist wrote, "By the waters of Babylon, we sat down and we wept." In a way, we can understand that sentiment now. And perhaps we can paraphrase a bit to read, "By the waters of New York, we sat down, and yea, we wept." For the past 18 months, we have seen disaster upon disaster, crisis after crisis. We know floods, fires, COVID, separation, illness, death, violence, politics, divided nation, anniversary of 9/11, loneliness, depression, and there are more. And again, in Psalm 137, the psalmist asks, "How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" And those little historically black congregations had an answer. For they knew destruction. They knew being carted off to a strange land. And they sang the Lord's song. And they greeted me with it every Sunday I went to one of those congregations and said, "God is good all the time, even in the midst of what we are going through." And here we are together in the strange land of the last 2 years of exile on this day of celebration as we regather as a cathedral community, a great day, and yet we are still masked. We're still half hidden from each other. That's what we're yearning for as we gather today. To see faces again. We gather here to see God's face, just like the disciples at Caesarea Philippi. What a surprise they had when they realized that when they saw Jesus, they were looking at God. Everybody who comes into this cathedral comes in seeking to touch God. Doesn't matter the dean, the bishop, the priests, the congregation, the casual visitor, the class of students coming to look at the architecture, the curious person who just wanders in. Everybody, I'm convinced of it now, everybody who comes here, knowingly or unknowingly, have come to touch God in some way. And many leave without knowing that they were seeking to touch God. be it for architecture, the beauty, the worship, even the most casual visitor comes to seek and touch and be untouched. But you see, the cathedral is a living icon. I know it's a pile of rocks, glass, steel, stone, but it's an icon, a living icon, a window into heaven. Think of it that way, a window into God's life. That's beautiful, and the cathedral is beautiful. But let me warn you, the cathedral is a dangerous place as well. The cathedral is where a virus lives. The cathedral is the place you come to be exposed to that virus. However, the virus the cathedral implants is very different from the COVID virus. But yet, anybody who comes here seeking God or seeking to touch God or be touched is about as safe as a person walking down a road holding a wasp nest and beating it with a stick. The reason is that the cathedral is a place of transformation. And to come into this place is to draw close to the transforming power of God, even if you don't know anything about God. It doesn't matter. Now, coming to the cathedral is a risky place because God is here. And God is all about transformation in human life. You may be asking, why are you here? Why am I here today? Oh my God. The answer is, I don't know, but you are. And if you're worried about not being good enough for God, or not being holy enough, or being too sinful or not sinful or whatever, let me assure you, God has low standards in people. And that's why we're here. That's what Christianity is all about. Because God transforms death into life, despair into hope, loneliness into community, weakness into strength. Even the light that comes in this place, everything that comes in here is transformed. Even the light that comes through those windows and that window, it enters as pure, clear, white light. And as it comes through the windows, it's broken up into all the colors it contains. And it's transformed into the beauty that you see. Everything is transformed. Bread, wine, or at least used to be wine, bread, is transformed into the very life of Jesus. Everything that comes to this place is transformed. It takes a lifetime. It doesn't happen overnight. Well, people like Paul, it happened like that. But the transformation is the result of an exposure to a good virus. Christianity is the good infection. And that's what we're here today for. To continue to be transformed. To continue to see God face to face as we gather around the altar, to touch God and to have God touch us and to give us strength to pass through the desert we're in today and to be transformed and empowered to love, to serve, to witness, and to be set loose in a war torn, diseased, and divided. We gather in despair, I know it, sadness, depression, loneliness this morning. But we also gather with trust and confidence. We trust that we are loved and that we are not alone. A man asked me one time, tell me the gospel in 25 words or fewer. Tell me the good news of Jesus. Well, that's a hard thing to ask any bishop to do. My answer was, we are loved and we are not alone. That's the good news of Jesus. We are not alone. We can trust and confide in God, and God's love empowers us and is with us and present with us, and that God is good all the time. Why don't we say that once? There's a pattern to it. You have to say, I'll say, God is good. You say all the time. All the time. All right, let's try a little bit more with it. Come on. All right. God is good. All the time. All the time. God is good. All right. We get thanks to God's goodness. We can move from this desert of troubles into a strong and blessed hope that includes all those who died in the tragedy of 9/11, all who suffer the terrors of war, attacks, random violence, natural disasters, COVID, all who have died rest in God's bosom. They are dead only to us. They are those who now know fully what we know only partly, and that God is good all the time, and even in heaven where there is no time, God is good. Brothers and sisters, siblings, friends, in this act of transforming worship, we are receiving God's good confection, poured into our famished and thirsty souls to gain strength and courage to go and live and serve one more day. Thankful for one another. Thankful for this place. Thankful for those who serve, risking their own lives for our sakes, and perhaps some of us here, doctors, nurses, teachers, soldiers, firefighters, the men who ride bicycles at night delivering our food because we're afraid to go out. We thank God for them, for their witness tells us something about what confidence and trust in God is about. And though we are masked, we're only half visible to one another. Jesus is fully visible and present in the sacrament we're about to receive. The bread we receive around this altar is the first taste of the heavenly feast that John describes. We receive Jesus into our lives in this sacrament, even if we only dimly grasp that one day we will see God face to face, and we will see one another face to face again, God willing, in this life, and we will know for sure and forever that God is good all the time. Let me promise you this, and you can bet your life on this promise. You can bet your life on God's great love. You can bet your life that in serving God's love, you are serving yourself and the world in God's name. No matter how many trials and tribulations we still have to go through, one day all the masks will fall off, and we will see one another and those we love face to face. And we will see God face to face, healed, restored, forgiven, hopeful, fully alive. And we will gather around the throne of God in the glory that St. John the Divine wrote about. And we will see and we will love God, and we will be seen and loved fully. And we will sing rejoicing that God is good all the time, and God will see us through this, and we will serve the people of this city and the world in God's name. God is good. All the time.